What's up guys, it's Taz101 Saga, and this video is dedicated to anyone who does not have a clue how to maintain a gas blowback pistol. Things you'll need: silicone gun oil. Make sure that it is 100% silicone and not some trashy cheap oil or WD-40, because over time that will wreck your gun. Cleaning rod. If you got your gun second hand, make sure you buy one of these. Also make sure it's suitable for a 6mm in a barrel and that it is plastic and not metal, because metal can scratch the barrel and possibly affect accuracy. This is another important thing to note. Your gun should come with one of these. This is what's known as a muzzle plug. There are lots of various names for it, but they all do the same thing. Just sits in your muzzle and stops crap from getting in there. So if you're not using your gun or you don't put it back in the box, just make sure you keep that in there. First thing to do, which is very important, release the magazine. We'll do a little. I'll have a little section towards the end of the video on how to disassemble a mag. Most of them will come apart differently, but if you've got a PC26, then this is your lucky day. Lock the slide back using the slide release manually. Now make sure, I wouldn't normally put a gun towards myself, but make sure there are no BBs in the chamber. You can see there aren't. Let it slide back forward. Most guns like the M9 or the 226, like this one, or some of the CZs and all that, they'll have a takedown lever here. So make sure you hold onto your slider, it might go flying. Mine doesn't, but just for demonstration purposes. Just push that down 90 degrees, slide your top frame off. I've actually deliberately already wiped all the oil off this gun, so you know what it sounds like when a gun has no oil on it. So maybe that will help you identify things. Doesn't sound good. Simply push on the tab, that slides out. Now where the ejection port is, just push up on that from underneath whilst pushing forward. That slides straight out. Simply tug that to the rear and that will slide out. And there's your inner barrel and there's your outer barrel. Hop-ups are very different on different guns. This one has a little wheel-based hop-up. You can see the arrow pointing is you move the wheel in that direction, you get more hop. A lot of guns will have, say you just lock the slide back and you have some sort of adjustment knob, or you might have to put an Allen key in there somewhere. You know, or a little, they might give you an adjustment tool for it. The hops are quite different, but however your hop is made up of, make sure you turn it off before you go any further. So although I've already got most of the oil off this, I will just pretend to do it again for demonstration purposes. Just make sure you, that's what it looked like when you've finished. Just make sure you wipe off everything around, particularly around the nozzle area. Make sure you get all the shit off that, because the nozzle's an important part of the weapon. Slide the nozzle forward. Just clean off any rubbish at the back, because that can affect the flow of the nozzle. Pay particular attention to the sides of the frame, because any part where it's going to be experiencing friction when it's cycling, make sure you get all that clean. Pull the nozzle forward and just clean, you'll see it exposes up there. Just wipe all that off. All these little parts here which control the slide lock and all the sear pieces and everything. Just make sure you give all those a good wipe. And once again, any part where you have contact between the slide and the frame during cycling, make sure you keep all those nice and clean. So I'd say that's pretty much it now. Does not take long. Lay that to one side. Now we're going to grab our other piece. Just tear a little bit off. Make sure the hop-up's turned off. Just yank that through. It doesn't have to be a perfect rectangular shape, so don't worry. Grab your silicone, put a couple of drops in there. Doesn't need much. Clean it from the rear end, that's what I always do. Just a, you know, similar habit of cleaning real guns. So just slide that through. Make sure you twist it whilst you do it to get the whole surface area. If you don't have to tug it back through, then don't. So just throw that patch away. The rod out, and keep repeating this process until you have got all the dirt off and the patches are coming out clean. Mine's already clean, so when you finish, just shove another patch through, just stick it through the barrel from the rear end. Rotate whilst you go. That will remove any silicone or any dirt left, so that way you won't have a silicone on the inside of the barrel, which, you know, is only going to attract dirt. If you're using green gas with your pistol, it's got quite a bit of silicone in it, so that will help to lubricate your barrel. So you want to make sure that you maintain it regularly, because you may attract dust in there. Next thing, if this is all clean, I'm going to show you how to lubricate and reassemble your gun now. So basically just spray a tiny little bit on a tissue. You do not need much on a spring guide rod. Lay it on there and just rub it over. Don't need much in there at all. Spring doesn't really need anything. Just stick your barrel, your inner barrel back in your outer barrel. It's done. Next thing, you want to lubricate the tracks inside the top frame, or the slide should I say. Doesn't need loads. Too much lube is not a good thing, remember that. Just make sure you put a little dinky. Just don't spray it literally everywhere. Just spray a little bit and then just turn it up and down just to let it run by itself. Don't spray it like crazy, don't go psh, bad idea. As for the nozzle, spray a tiny little bit on these parts. Don't need much. And just wipe that a little bit, dab that around with a tissue somewhere. Pull back on the nozzle and lubricate a little bit behind. And a tiny bit in where the gas blows. That's as much as you really need to do for slide. As for the hammer parts, just spray a little bit inside the recess there, which is where you get friction on the hammer. Once again on the channels. These metal parts as well do see a little bit of contact, so just spray a tiny bit on top of there. Don't need much. And on each side. Once you've done that, you want to reassemble your gun, however it goes back together. So I'm just going to quickly reassemble mine. Once you've got it back together, just check the function. Just clean the whole exterior of the gun because the oil can run out. And that's pretty much it. You have a lubricated complete gun. What I'm going to do now is talk a little bit about the magazine. Now, you don't actually need to disassemble your magazine often, but just for anyone who's interested in or needs to do that, if you're getting a leaky mag, this may be the solution. Mags will normally have some sort of Allen setup screw assembly. If you've got 226, like I said before, this is your lucky day. So make sure there's no gas in the mag. If you can push this and nothing comes out and it's loose, it's not being held outwards, then it's fine. Otherwise, if you unscrew it, the gas will just come out and you waste all the gas, so there's no point. Just make sure it's empty. Unscrew with the Allen key. Right, after a while you notice it's protruding quite a bit and the magazine will start to come apart in the middle. So what you can do is just hold it carefully because your spring will spring out, so just gently pull that apart. Like that. Slide your spring out and then your follower will drop out the bottom, like that. There's your bits, and also just tap the screw and it will come out the side there. What I'm going to show you first, to clean your track, or just to give it a bit of a clean, just pull a little patch off, just give it a little run through getting the grit out of there, because if your BBs have a little bit of grit on or something, it's just best to keep absolutely everything clean. Okay, so next you're just going to clean these little parts, rip another bit off as well. Now a lot of these parts are rubber, these are the bits you want to keep clean and well lubed, so just make sure you go around the outside there. Clean all that off. Make sure it's dry to start with. Now if you use your gun often in cold weather, you can have a problem where the seals start to crack, basically because they're not being maintained because they've been in a lot of cold weather, or they're starting to crack from the freezing temperatures. So it's better not to fire your gun an awful lot in cold weather, because obviously the gun gets colder the more you fire it. You may not get many shots for a start anyway. All you basically need to do now is to leave your mag. So if you see these little parts here, spray a little bit in there. And you're going to spray a little bit on the outside after, we'll go over that. Spray a little bit around the edge, you don't need loads. Just spray a nice big drop on one side, then spread it around. Make sure you go around the outside. Mags will be different internally because different companies will of course have different designs, but usually they're quite similar. Just make sure you put plenty of lube inside these parts. Keep them nice and well oiled. This is your follower. This is what the spring, it sits on the spring like this. Basically pushes your BBs up under spring pressure. Make sure that's clean as well. You're not really going to get much dirt on that, but just make sure it's clean anyway. As for your inside of the shell there, just give a nice little spray around the outside. There's usually a little rubber seal part there. After that, you just want to get your mag back together. Just spray one side of the follower very lightly. That's what I find helps. Just slide that back in. That will slide down. Next you want to get all this lined up. Place your big screw in the back or wherever it's going. Slide it in the bottom as well. Now compress the two together. Make sure the spring doesn't get caught, and then you'll get that. Just hold that together, make sure it's nice and tight. Then put your Allen key back in here and screw until you've got it nice and tight. Best way to do it is to make sure it's going tight so you can't screw it any longer. Next thing you want to do is spray a little bit of oil on top of this part. Tap that off. Gas port itself, this is a little silicone part here, or should I say a rubber part. Spray that around the outside and a little bit inside. This is what releases the gas. There's a little pin inside the lower frame which when you pull the trigger releases that, and that taps that and releases gas out of this part. So you want to keep that clean. If that's not clean, just go around the outside of it. Make sure there's no dirt or debris in there because that can hinder its effectiveness. Make sure you get plenty of lube around this bit. Right, so now you're ready to place your gun and your mag back together. Another good thing to note is just before you store the gun, place a little bit of gas inside here after you've just sprayed the lube, because that'll help to get the lube inside. Just put a tiny bit of gas. All you really need is that much. That'll help to keep the seals in place under pressure. So after you've done that, you just want to do a simple function check after cleaning your gun as well. Just cycle the slide and pull the trigger. Cycle the slide again, and when you let go of the trigger it should reset. There you go, you're fine. So thanks very much for watching, and that's been the tutorial on how to clean, lubricate and maintain magazine on a gas blowback pistol. So thanks for watching guys, I'll see you in my next video.